Right, a very good morning, bright Monday morning. We're back. This is the Morning Cafe, fresh and ready to kickstart your week like no other way.
The very last Monday of May, it's salary week as well.
Yeah.
Yesterday was Africa Day.
I didn't even realize it was the last week of May.
It's the last stretch. We are stretched. Tumemaliza mwezi.
All right.
My name is Anne Odida. Karibu sana to Morning Cafe.
My name is Fred Indimuli. Let's take a look at what the dailies are talking about today. The Standard, plot to stalk Kenyans. This is a big discussion and I'll tell you why.
Daily Nation, high varsity fees ruining our lives.
Pale kwenye Taifa Leo anasema DCP yamchokoza Uhuru.
People Daily, inside scheme to grab 370-acre refinery land.
Business Daily, Treasury to sell Safaricom stake in a 149 billion shilling plan.
And the Star, migrants tapping formal jobs as youth lose opportunities.
All right, so these are the main discussion points locally, especially the plans to stalk Kenyans online. We'll be discussing that. These are the gentlemen who will be in studio. Samuel Pogisio, who has served as a Minister for ICT, also as a majority leader in the Senate, will be in studio alongside Makali Mulu, MP Kitui Central, and Danson Mugatana, who is a senator for Tana River County. Tuvuke boda tuangazie what wanasema nini, lakini kabla ya hapo kutakuwa na nini leo?
Monday Blitz, Arocho and Duncan Mutua will be here for this alongside Lawrence Omondi, a football agent and coach, and Annette Washira, sports content creator.
So that coming your way at around 8 a.m. Later,
Matters Law, tunaenda pale corridors of justice, schools versus parent responsibility, where's the line? Of course, with Peter Wasaga, an advocate of the High Court of Kenya.
All right, so a lot in store for you on Morning Cafe this Monday. Tukiangazia gazeti la kule kwingine, we start in Uganda. This is a Daily Monitor. UPDF steps up its row with Germany. Matters diplomacy. The Uganda People's Defense Forces yesterday continued digging in against Germany days after it accused the European country's ambassador in Uganda of meddling in internal affairs of the country. The story is on pages 4 and 5. What happened is that the German ambassador had a phone call with Bobby Wine. Na akimwambia usijali, we are working with the other ambassadors, tutakusaidia, you're not alone. And these people, they're very brutal, I understand, and they're also very primitive. Wamekasirika sana. Muhozi kainderu gaba, nasema tutafukuza huyo jamaa. So meddling in the internal affairs of the country. The other story here on the front page of this paper, start teaching immediately. Ministry tells schools. Don't know, wanasema nini pale, ni maswala ya education. Broken by joblessness and abundant alcohol is also a story there. Pale juu, Museveni order on vandalism gets a warm welcome in Luero. Na maswala ya NRM. Ministers and MPs win NRM grassroots elections. That's the Daily Monitor in Uganda. Tuvuke boda tuende Tanzania. Kabla hapo, East Africa.
How Kenya aided arrest of activists in Dar. Nasema its cooperation policy with repressive regimes in the region has been called out, with lawyers saying Tanzania breached East African Commission Treaty in deporting regional lobbyists. But they are here, Martha Karua, of course, William Mutunga, former Chief Justice Boniface Mwangi, and Agatha Atahaire, that is an Ugandan activist. Sasa wanasema in Kenya, sisi we aided in the arrest of activists in Dar.
So like the Kenyan government.
Tunajishutu kwa miguu tu. That's why we didn't even care about what is happening to these guys.
According to this paper, this it was government to government, G to G. So ala kuuliza kamba au
nimeona karika chafani
warudishe nyumbani.
Africa states scramble for UN agencies. Kenya, Rwanda and Botswana tussle for rights to host relocating units. The shock of Harvard's ban on Africans, it's myopic. Alumni of prestigious US universities say of latest move. And that's the East African.
All right. The next one is in Tanzania. Gazeti la Mwananchi, Rungwe, safari ya G55 ilivyosukwa. Asimulia hatua kwa hatua mazungumzo yalivyofanyika na wahusika wakuu na masharti waliotoa, azungumzia mipango ya baadaye, tetesi kuhusu Mbowe. Nakumbuka chama cha Chadema kimepasuka kama mara tatu. Kuna Chauma, kuna Chadema ile ya Tundu Lissu na sasa kuna G55. So kwa mahojiano maalum anasema kulienda aje. how did they start that vuguvugu? Ni masuala tu ya siasa yaliyopewa kipaumbele kwenye kurasa wa mbele. Vikao CCM kuibuka na mrithi wa Daktari Nchimbi, ni swali wanauliza pale. Chadema yatangaza msimamo kwa msajili. Unajua walikuwa wameambiwa ile uchaguzi wa ndani waliambiwa warudie. So now you can see a lot more focused on political news in Tanzania as we head closer to the election date later in the year. So gazeti la Mwananchi.
Tukisalia kule Bongo, we don't have the Citizen.
Hatuna Citizen leo, ni kama hawajaamka. So we'll be back to take a look at these dailies, local dailies in depth. But for now, let's take a look at the weather situation across not just Kenya. Tuangazie hata huku continent wanasema nini. Ni kama ulitoa hiyo.
Zoom.tv. Okay.
Anyway, let's just come straight to different areas. We start off in the Rift Valley. Nakuru, which is at the central area of the Rift Valley.
15 degrees in Nakuru. It's a cloudy day, highs of 24 degrees. Precipitation in Nakuru today is 1.5 millimeters. Showers of blessing toka hapo saa 6 saa 7.
Not so bad. Areas around Mount Kenya region, Murang'a, 17 degrees Celsius, mostly cloudy throughout the day, highs of 25 degrees. And as far as precipitation, 5.3 millimeters, so that's a bit considerable.
It's 19 degrees in Kisumu, feels like 24, a very cloudy day as well. Highs of 27. Precipitation in Kisumu is 1 millimeter.
Up north in Wajir, 25 degrees, feels like 27, mostly cloudy as well throughout the day. Highs of 33 degrees. Unasema hakuna mvua huko Wajir. Sahau hiyo maneno.
Mombasa, 25 degrees, feels like 27. Light rain expected. It's raining actually in Mombasa. Highs of 28. And precipitation here is 9.4 millimeters. Heavy rain.
So Mombasa has the highest rainfall across the regions today. Finally, Nairobi, 15 degrees Celsius right now, mostly cloudy, highs of 24 degrees. Some sunny intervals later, much later, starting at 4 p.m. A bit of rain expected, 2.3 millimeters of rainfall expected in Nairobi. So not so bad. But Mombasa, highest rainfall today. So that's the weather situation. Tuangazie Monday traffic. It's exactly
10 minutes.
10 minutes past the hour. Watu Nairobi wameamka, hawajaamka. Let's take a look at the major tributaries into town. Thika Road, yes, Pangani interchange is building very fast. You can see, and it's stretching as far back as the Mathare Mental Hospital, meaning hapa kutakuwa na shida leo. Because usually hapa inakuwa yellow saa hii. Maybe around quarter past the hour ndo unaanza kuona it has turned red very fast, meaning people are eager to get to work this Monday morning. Thika Road kule nyuma inakaa sawa sawa, so nothing much to worry about. Outer Ring Road not looking bad, but areas around Fedha, matatu zimeanza kupanga kubeba watu. Kangundo Road, nothing much to report. Leo is not as busy. Ni kama watu hufanya kazi from home Monday. Ikifika Friday ndo kila mtu anakuja upande ingine. Jogoo Road is beginning to build up around Makadara, but nothing to worry about. You can still drive very fast to town, or ride a matatu very fast to town, or even ride a bicycle very fast to town. Whichever means you use. Ama hata ukitaka kutembea, Jogoo Road si mbaya sana. Pale around City Stadium ndo naona imeanza kubuild up slowly there. Same to Haile Selassie Avenue around Railways bus station. It's building up slowly. Mombasa Road looking good. Na upande hii watu wa kufanya kazi from home, nothing to report. Hata Wayakiwe, it's good all the way into town. So that's the traffic situation this morning in Nairobi.
All right, let's take a look at the quote of the day. Life's true value isn't measured in years but in moments well spent, with meaning, love, courage, and purpose defining a life of true richness and worth.
Right. Let's come back home and take a look at the dailies. DCP amchokoza Uhuru, ndio habari kuu pale kwenye ukurasa wa mbele wa gazeti hili. Wanasema vita vya ubabe vya zuka, wandani wa Gachagua wakimtaka Kenyatta aachie kinara wao Mwenge. Hapa kuna huyu senator anaitwa Joe Nyoto, anasema yeyote anayetaka kupata, unajua hiyo sema kupata uungwaji wa watu wa Mlima Kenya sharti apitie kwa Rigathi Gachagua. Yeye ndio ufunguo wa kuingia mlimani sasa, wala si Uhuru. Wewe nani? Nyoto. Gakuya pia anasema vilevile kuna wale wanaotuambia eti tunapaswa kusubiri mwelekezo wa Bwana Kenyatta kuhusu 2027 ilhali Rigathi yuko. Hao ni watu wanaotaka kuturudisha nyuma. DCP anasema mambo yako yaitulia. Matamshi ya viongozi wa mlimani wanaomshabikia Gachagua wamesema haya siku moja baada ya chama cha Uhuru Jubilee kusisitiza kuwa kitamuunga Matiang'i kwa urais katika uchaguzi mkuu ujao. Sasa hapa ndio shida inatokea. Jubilee wamesema Matiang'i is our candidate. Na hapa bado ni wa mlima. Chama cha mlimani Uhuru Kenyatta pale. Lakini Gachagua anasema kama ni mambo ya mlima. Nyinyi mnaweza kuwa na Matiang'i Jubilee, hatujakataa. Lakini kama ni masuala ya mlima,
wachia mlima
wa Munyoro. Wasiwasi wa maafa ya kimbunga. Watu watatu hawajulikani waliko baada ya boti zao kupigwa na dhoruba kali kupiga pwani. That's the Indian Ocean. It is around Kilifi. Mgomo KUPPET yaonya TSC, walimu waipa tume siku 7 kutekeleza makubaliano ya mshahara. Na polisi wa Narok wakamatwe, anasema seneta wa Busia Okiya Omtata. Jumu wasifu Raila kwa uzalendo. Pale juu Arsenal malkia wa UEFA, mbivu na mbichi EPL. Vipusa wa Gunners, at least vipusa wa Gunners watoa taji la Ulaya. Man City, Newcastle na Chelsea wakimaliza ligi kuu katika 5 bora. Na ule jamaa wa Man U alikuja leo anajaribu kunieleza vile sijui walishinda kikombe, sijui walifanya nini.
Last week waliitwa wanyonge.
Waliitwa wanyonge, wanyongeni, wanyongeni. Wale hata ni relegation threatened, wameponea chupu wale. Ni vizuri simsikizi sahi. Gazeti la Taifa Leo.
People Daily, inside scheme to grab 370-acre refinery land, and Treasury and Energy Ministry's fast-track sale of a pricey asset to foreign investor. This story is on page 4. Of course, it's here on the front page as well. Citizens suffer over failed state services. Finance bill, Kenyans reject personal data law and cane transport levy. Here, personal data law, nayo imeleta kweli tashwishi, together with that one ya internet, to have, anasema alarm as state introduces law changes to regulate digital media. It is there. I was thinking, haiko hapo. Anasema the bill proposes a billing system where each user will be assigned a meter number. And of course, activists say the law could be used as a surveillance tool by the government.
And you know what happens is that whatever you do on the internet, every time you log in on the internet, they know it's you and what you're looking for, what sites you visited, whatever you posted on your social media, hata kama uli delete, and that data, according to the bill, is actually sent to the Communications Authority at least once a year, according to the proposal in that. Meaning hata kama umeingia internet ukaingia kwa banki yako through the net, wanajua kila kitu.
Mimi na support. You know why? For the bullies. Unaona wale keyboard warriors?
Well, they should. Anyway, I don't know. I guess there are different
there are different angles to it. If you're looking at your breach of personal data, sasa hapo itakuwa mbaya. But if you're looking to tame wale watu ambao wako rogue on social media,
is that the intention?
That
or
should
is it
be
to
the
monitor
intention.
what Kenyans are doing online?
Sasa huwezi tame Kenyans. Yeah.
Interesting.
People Daily.
Plot to stalk Kenyans, and that's a big conversation there on the front page of the Standard. Creepy intention, they call it. For the upteenth time, the Ruto administration is once again pushing to amend information laws through a private member's bill. Huyu Mary Keitany ndo amesponsor hii bill that would grant sweeping powers to monitor, trace and target Kenyans online. If passed, the legislation will give the state unprecedented access to digital platforms, raising fears of a crackdown on dissent and increased surveillance of government critics, especially in the wake of last year's Gen Z protests. Yeah. So this is the intention. Experts warn the timing points to a calculated attempt to mute online activism ahead of the 2027 general election. Do you think they can actually be muted at this time?
They can't.
Yeah. Because I understand many Kenyans, even during the Gen Z protest, they were using some different VPNs to access the internet.
Yes.
Watu utawezana nao kweli?
Really. And you know, that's what I wanted to say. Kenyans are tech savvy.
Yes.
ICT hapo top notch.
Hapo ni kama bunge hawaelewi vile inaenda. The law might be there, but is it implementable?
Yeah.
Even if you put it in place. Plus, the main reason why they are doing this, what is the intention? So that's the main discussion there, but the other story given prominence, no papers, no plan, why exam season is in jeopardy. Millions of learners face the country's biggest exam season yet, with KCSE, grade 9 and grade 7 tests looming, but with days ticking by, NEC hasn't even begun printing, citing lack of funds. Yeah. So I think also matters education are coming back into sharp focus, especially with the lack of funds. Niliona gazeti ingine jana, wanasema kuna shule, in matters capitation, kuna shule ilitumiwa 87 bob. Yeah. Surely.
Yeah.
Serikali inatumia shule 87. Hata ya kutoa wezi tuma ya kutoa. Ama ilikuwa 50 bob, ilikuwa 50 bob na ya kutoa. Wakatumia.
37 ya kutoa.
Yeah. So this is one angle, and as far as education is concerned, I'm sure there's another paper that talks about education as well this morning. Yes. So that's the standard. Do you have
It is.
IBC vetting halted. This was to start today in the National Assembly, but because of that court injunction, it will not continue. Yet there's a deadline. By the end of May, they would have done this. So probably Parliament will be forced to craft up some amendments to a law to extend that period because of this, so that they can give the court time to pronounce itself and give the way forward. Unajua koti hata inaweza sema turudi tuanze selection panel afresh. Yes. Right. Back page with the EPL race over now. What next? Arsenal finishes second. Chelsea players and staff celebrate after securing Champions League football next season. Kuna timu ingine sijui wataenda wapi. Ole wao, wanyonge, wanyongeni. That's the standard today.
Daily Nation, high varsity fees ruining our lives. Crisis students punished due to delayed disbursement of government funding. Thousands of university students placed in categories that require them to pay hefty fees with minimal government subsidy under a new funding model have petitioned authorities for review, but as they await their fate, the most desperate have been forced to drop out of college and others barred from sitting their exams because of mounting fees arrears. Some of the students are here on the front page of this newspaper. Kuna moja ni kama tumemhost hapa before. Anaitwa Grace Wangari. That face is so familiar. Tuangalie ndani wanasema vipi. High varsity fees and wrong categorization are ruining our lives. Students complain of being barred from sitting their end of semester examination for failure to pay their portion under the new funding model. Higher education reform, the new plan meant to help universities get out of financial doldrums, promised equity, lakini haiwapatii hiyo equity ambayo it promised.
And you realize now issues around funding in education. Now this is university funding. Capitation for schools is also a problem. Hapa tumeona hapo wanasema nini hiyo nyingine? Exams. Problem. Ni kama hakuna pesa. And even in the budget they scrapped that subsidy for exam, because initially the government had put 5 billion shillings to pay for exams. So amesema hizo pesa wazazi ndio watalipa. So mzazi anatoa ya exam, analipa university extra money, na capitation anatumiwa 87 shillings kwa shule.
All right, conned by a prophet. To his followers and employees, he is Prophet David Maina, a man overseeing the operations of Iziawe Media Services Limited, which officially is spreading the gospel through multiple television stations, except it's the gospel of greed and is leaving a trail of bitter victims. This is a special feature by this newspaper.
I read part of that story and they talk about, unajua vile watu wanaambiwa tuma pesa.
Yeah.
Lakini anaambiwa tuma pesa, utashinda pesa ingine. So tuma 10 bob, tuma 30 bob, tuma yo, alafu you have a chance, your blessing is coming today and you will win. Alafu your pesa inaenda hivyo.
Ni kama kupanda ile 310.
But unajua ile 310, I don't think the promise was that you can get money back. Yeah. So according to this story, the promise is you'll get the money back in
bulk.
Multiple.
Conned by a prophet. That story is on page 4 and 5 of this newspaper. Secrets of Kenya-Haiti deal exposed. A former U.S. envoy to Haiti, who has been vocal about the peacekeeping mission to the Caribbean nation, is back in the limelight with fresh claims on how the deal to deploy Kenyan police to the war-torn country was brokered. Senators target 3 Ruto CSS. Cabinet Secretaries John Mbadi, Lee Kinyanjui and Alice Wahome face censure motions for snubbing House Committee and bill to allow state to hack accounts of internet users. To hack. A new bill whose architect says it intends to protect consumer from exploitation by internet service providers has sparked outrage, with critics arguing the proposed law is a scheme to control social media. Legal experts warn that it violates the Constitution and the Data Protection Act, among other laws.
So umesikia hapo wasema the proposal is intended to cushion you from exploitation by service providers. Do you really feel you're exploited by those service providers?
Kwenye tumefika?
Ushazoea.
Tushazoea. Iko sawa venye iko. Bora wasiongeze.
That is the intention, they say. Lakini the consequences will be very different.
Yes. On the back page, police bullets shift focus to CAF Champions League, and Kenyan hammer throwers pin Tokyo dreams on tour. That is Matters Athletics. National champion Abunda calls for structured support. And that's the Daily Nation.
Right. On the Star, migrants tap informal jobs as youth lose opportunities. Some 8.4% of Kenyans aged 18 to 24 are jobless. 8.4%. That sounds kidogo, 8.4%. I thought the figure should be higher, but let's just see what they're saying. Saying youth unemployment remains a pressing concern. This is a special feature. Informal sector created 700,000 jobs out of 780,000 new jobs. So informal sector mostly imechukua kila kitu. Kenya's unemployment rate stood at 5.6 in 2023, up from 5.4 the previous year. Rwanda, Burundi, DRC, Tanzania, China, Nigeria, and Ethiopia, countries with the most migrant workers in Kenya. You realize, sijui kama huendi kinyozi. Vinyozi vingi siku hizi Nairobi, watu si wa hapa Kenya, vinyozi ni wa kutoka mostly Rwanda, Burundi. Yes. Same to hawkers. Rwanda, Burundi. Nasikia sasa Tanzania, China, hata uliona Chinese hawkers. We have even Chinese hawkers in Kenya. Over 800,000 young people enter the labor market every year. Yes. Na wengi wanaingia boda boda. So that's the biggest discussion there on the front page of the Star. The other stories given prominence: NCIC summons Gachagua and 10 others on hate speech. That one we had seen last week. And there's a fresh push to automate good conduct certificates. Right now, good conduct tunaenda pale DCI. Asubuhi mapema sana. Unapewa nini, which they can automate. The same way you get your certificates via eCitizen. Why can't you get good conduct there as well? That's the Star. Fresh, independent, different. Ukiona shilingi 60, you can grab yourself a copy.
Business Daily. Treasury to sell Safaricom stake in 149 billion shillings plan. Tuangalie ndani wanasema vipi. Anasema the government plans to sell a mega stake in telecoms operator Safaricom before June next year in efforts to raise the bulk of 149 billion shillings expected from the privatization of state enterprises. Treasury Cabinet Secretary John Mbadi reckons Safaricom is the only big-ticket firm that could help the state meet its target of raising billions of shillings in a fiscal year when it avoided new taxes in the finance bill. Last week, to some of that story, the Safaricom is actually contributing a lot of money to the government in terms of tax revenue. Yeah.
But by selling a stake, wouldn't this be, anyway, because ownership of the biggest internet service provider or communication service provider, ideally government should have a huge stake in it just for control. But if we cede all that, yet most of our transactions are on that platform. If we're in private hands completely, then what happens?
To hack.
Ndio mnaanza kuhack.
Ruby CEO deported in Uhuru era gets global executive role. Yuko hapa French multinational Ruby's has promoted the former CEO of its Kenyan subsidiary Jean-Christian Bergeron to a global executive role, marking a dramatic change in fortune after his deportation from Nairobi in 2022. On the ticker, Safaricom, Telcom, Airtel sued over auto renewal subscriptions. Telecoms operators, Safaricom, Telcom, Kenya and Airtel have been sued on claims that they have failed to make it easier to end auto renewal subscriptions, exposing consumers to additional charges.
Could this be the reason why they're pushing that bill?
Kuna vile wamepanga.
Because hapa wanasema hawa wana exploit. Now they've been sued. Now you see the connection with the bill.
Yeah. Equity Free to sell East African Cables land over 2.2 billion shillings loan, and Canadian firm seeks approval to list crypto assets on NSC. And that's the Business Daily.
Right. So those are the discussions on the dailies. We'll be looking at them with my panelists after a while. But let's take a look at the cartoons this morning. This one is on Daily Nation. Kuna serikali hapa, mkono wa serikali ndio umeshikilia askari. Na askari anatumia, inaitwa nini? Binoculars. Kwa Kiswahili inaitwa aje? Anatumia
microscope in English.
Anachunguza, anaangazia sana opposition. Yes. As we head towards election. So, but what they're saying here is that the government is actually controlling the police. Yeah. All right.
And yule mtu wa Maniu ndiye amesema actually it's called a microscope in Kiswahili.
Watu wa Maniu huwezi wasaidia sana. Wanyonge, wanyongeni.
The Standard, ile caricature nilikuwa nasema watu wameshikwa kule miguu, lakini wanasema the East African Commission, this is the flag ya Jumuiya ya Afrika Mashariki, imeshika activists na wanasema
sio kushika tu, imeshika ni kafinya. Jamaa anapiga nduru.
Sikutaka kusema imeshikwa wapi, but we all know. Ukiona
but yeah, there's also the
karatasi opposition.
Yeah, opposition. You know now, look at how many countries. In Uganda, the opposition leader is behind bars. In Tanzania, the opposition leader is behind bars. In South Sudan, the first vice president is under house arrest. Na hapa wamesema
hadi kiatu
itaendelea. Finyo kiatu kikatoka.
Same. People
daily. Kuna chura hapa na imeandikwa Tanzania. Sijui ni kwa nini wameweka ni chura Tanzania.
Anasema nimeanza kuona mtiririko wa wanaharakati kwa region yangu. Nimeanza kuona mtiririko wa wanaharakati kwa region yangu. Niba alisema, anasema lakini the tongue is too long na kuna kabiz kana Kenyan political activists wanaenda kuiuma. Hiyo ulimi hapo.
Lakini mbona wanasema mwenye alisema hivi wanamcompare na mbona?
She has been compared to us on social media if you've just been keen to look at it.
All right. That's no stake. Finally on the Star. Ile debate ya East or West. So on one side kuna Xi Jinping ule wa China, kule kwingine kuna Trump. Sasa hapo katikati kuna compass. Na unajua president amekuwa na mara ako US state visitor, kidogo amekimbia huku na anasema wale wengine kama si wazuri sana. Na akisema hivyo foreign affairs CS ako US. So ni kama tunazungukana tu hapa. Anafaa sema our position is very clear. Ni kama wale usema the law is very clear. Na uelewi. That's a cartoon on the Standard. So these are just some of the conversations and the dailies here, and we'll be looking at them with my panelists after the break. This morning, a privilege to be having Senator Danson Mungatana of Tana River, Samuel Pugisio, who was served as Senate Majority Leader, and Makali Mulu, MP Kitui Central. Do stand by for that conversation after the break.
Meanwhile, interact with us on our socials, TV47 Kenya on Facebook and on YouTube, on X at TV47 News KE. My handle is at Anna_Dida and the hashtag is Morning Cafe.
My name is Fred Ndimuli. My handle is at Fred Ndimuli. See you after the break.
Our world is changing every day, and so should we, for the better. Each week, we tackle the big why, the question that should be on everyone's minds. Why isn't this fixed yet? Deforestation, global warming, and the adverse effects of climate change. The future isn't just something that we inherit, it's something that we create. Join us on The Green Fix as we tell the stories of those who refuse to give up. When it comes to fixing the planet, there is no time to waste. Join me, Shiksha Arora, on Thursdays at 9 p.m. on The Green Fix as we look into the big why, you and I.
For comprehensive information and education on your health, Body Garage is here.
Don't allow anyone to pluck out your good tooth as long as it is strong and stable.
Cancer doesn't start today and you get the symptoms tomorrow. By the time you pick it or the time it is manifesting in you, probably will be there about 5 to 10 years.
The eye is the window to the rest of the body.
Don't forget to stay hydrated.
And of course, you at home do take your water.
So the ultimate test is actually you check your urine. Your urine should be clear.
Clear like the water.
Yes. Should be able to see the other side of the urine. If your urine is colored or has changed color, you cannot see the other side, then you have not taken enough water.
Don't forget regular health checkups. Early detection saves lives.
I want the message be, we can prevent cervical cancer. We prevent cervical cancer in several ways. You have young girls and even somebody who's above that age, you can pay at least every 3 years. Somebody should have a pap smear done.
If you are 40, 45, 50, going upwards, once a year, please go see a doctor. Yeah, it's just for normal routine maintenance.
Hey there, friends. Welcome to Kids on the Block, where fun and imagination come alive. We dive into magical world filled with exciting adventures and awesome friends.
What position were you in?
I was number 2.
What position were you?
Number 1.
He decided to cross the bridge by his house and look for food on the other side.
We're going to do half cup of chocolate chips, and the other one, we're going to do half cup of the blueberries.
So, grab your imagination hats and get ready to explore with us. Join us every Saturday at 9 a.m. for new friends, amazing stories, and tons of laughter.
Jiunge nasi tunapoangazia safari za viongozi bora. Kutoka kwa ushindi mkubwa hadi masomo magumu.
Wakati wetu kwamba wasichana si wa kusoma, ni wa kuolewa, ng'ombe ipatikane, wazazi wakuwe watajiri.
Tunashughulikia yote.
I wish I were a better investor.
My parents taught me how to look for things for myself.
Tazama Mfahamu Kiongozi, ambapo kila kipindi kimejaa maarifa, mikakati na hadithi za kukuza azma yako.
For me to succeed, I have to fight.
Kila Alhamisi saa 1:30.
Our world is changing every day, and so should we, for the better. Each week, we tackle the big why, the question that should be on everyone's minds. Why isn't this fixed yet? Deforestation, global warming, and the adverse effects of climate change. The future isn't just something that we inherit, it's something that we create. Join us on The Green Fix as we tell the stories of those who refuse to give up. When it comes to fixing the planet, there is no time to waste. Join me, Shiksha Arora, on Thursdays at 9 p.m. on The Green Fix as we look into the big why, you and I.
For comprehensive information and education on your health, Body Garage is here.
Don't allow anyone to pluck out your good tooth as long as it is strong and stable.
Cancer doesn't start today.
All right, welcome back. You're watching Morning Cafe on TV47. My name is Fred Indemuli. Time for us to take a look at the big headlines this morning. Plot to stalk Kenyans is a screaming headline on the front page of The Standard. That story also find it on the front page of the Daily Nation to talk about a bill to allow state to hack accounts of internet users. Matters Education also finding their way back to the front pages. High varsity fees ruining our lives. And on the inside pages they talk about seen where children are unable to go to school because of capitation, lack of capitation funds as well. So we'll be talking about that and probably towards the tail end of this show, discuss a few issues around politics. This morning we are privileged to have my immediate left, Samuel Pogisio, who has served as a member of the National Assembly, as a member of the Senate, served as Senate Majority Leader in the 12th Parliament, and also as Minister ICT in the Kibaki 2 administration. Karibu sana Bwana Pogisio.
Thank you very much.
Next to Bwana Pogisio, we have Senator Danson Mungatana of Tana River. Karibu sana.
Asante.
And Makali Mulu, MP Kitui Central, also joins us this morning.
Yeah, thank you.
Gentlemen, let's start with the matters to do with the privacy. The story on the front page of The Standard, which I feel is the biggest talking point this morning, and they call it creepy intention. For the upteenth time, the Ruto administration is once again pushing to amend information laws through a private member's bill, and the private member is Honorable Mary Keitany, that would grant sweeping powers to monitor, trace and target Kenyans online. If passed, the legislation will give the state unprecedented access to digital platforms, raising fears of a crackdown on dissent and increased surveillance of government critics. Especially in the wake of last year's Gen Z protests, experts now warn the timing points to a calculated attempt to mute online activism ahead of the 2027 general election. Now, the intention of this bill, according to the sponsor of the bill, is to protect Kenyans from exploitation by internet service providers. Yet, according to what we are seeing, this could be something totally different and probably be used by the state to monitor data or internet use by Kenyans. Listen to this. In her justification, Keitany says the bill seeks to develop and deploy quality metered billing capable of monitoring customer usage, convert data into readable details, and create invoices based on users' consumption. But an analysis by digital rights experts point to a chilling plan for mass data collection, real-time monitoring of citizens, and erosion of human rights by the state under the guise of regulating internet billing by internet service providers. Bwana Pogisio, you've served as Minister for ICT. Times have really changed. Internet usage, social media, a lot of data is actually available online, including personal data, banking details, and all these things. Do you agree that the state should have the leeway to convert all this private data and have it in their control?
Thank you, Fred. You're right. I mean, I have occupied that space, and I know with the growth of technology, you'll soon realize that there's nothing like private anymore. as long as you've entered a public space. That space is already what you would call murky waters, if you want to, because you don't control it. I mean, even now, by the way, those of us in this on this panel, if you ask any of them, somehow their data is not safe anymore, even those of us who are here. Because if you become a person of interest in any government, your data is no longer safe. They have a way of finding, of tracking you, of monitoring you, even of literally making sure that you cannot really have your own privacy. You've heard about tapping of phones and so on, so that they can monitor whom you're talking to and things like that. And with technology now, you really don't have to even pass a law. You don't even have to pass a law. And I think it's actually very redundant of the MP to try and move it as a bill, because the technology that we have today, you can even have technology to prevent that from happening, you see. So somebody wants to make sure that you're tracked, and technology is changing so fast that you don't have to do a bill like that. I just want to recommend that to our politicians, especially members of parliament, that before you move a bill like this one, can you please check with the international community, check with what happens in other countries. Is there anybody in the US, for example, who has moved a bill like this? Is there somebody in developed countries who moves a bill like this? Are we becoming so redundant that we have to move a bill, make sure it is part of our law, something that should be driven by how technology moves? We don't have to make it part of our legal system. Secondly, if you move a law like this, if you pass a law like this one, is our legal system, our judiciary, up to speed to deal with this kind of law as well? Do we have the mechanism to actually make it illegal? Or even to arrest somebody on the basis of that? So we do have a situation in our hands where we legalize so much. We make so many laws in this country. Every year we're adding to our laws something that's not necessary. And make our law book so big for nothing, when actually, when actually precedent should be more of what we use than even trying to create more laws. So I know that the lawyer in the House here will probably guide us on that matter. But I just want to say to government, there are 54 million Kenyans, okay? Some of them have 3-4 numbers, mobile numbers. Stalking these Kenyans is not easy, by the way. It's not going to be easy for you. So they're just going to target people, a very few people, but you cannot stalk 54 million people. Now, there is something called the Data Commissioner in this country, whose job is actually to protect us. Protect our data and make it so that nobody interferes with our data. It doesn't matter who it is, even government. So we do have a situation in our hands where we need to make government realize that the best way to run this country is to allow more freedoms, to allow people to express themselves, and protect those rights which are in our Constitution. Anything you do now like this one, and Mary Keitany, is she called Mary?
Yes.
Mary Keitany should not allow herself to be used by anybody to bring a law that is going to be criticized, challenged in court. People rush to court. I mean, this is not going to be easy. Yeah, why would you want to be the one to bring a law like that, which, is going to look like you're still stalking people, you're going to victimize people, you're going to get people more in trouble instead of more in freedom. So yeah, I do want to say that it's not the kind of thing that you would like to participate in, especially if you're going to ask to vote to pass a law like that. If even the people who are going to vote are going to question, am I safe myself? Is my data safe? Are we saying that those in parliament are angels, that they will not also be tracked, they will not be stalked? So yeah, I believe that I would advise the government not to be associated with this kind of law, because it would look like government is stalking people, looking for people to arrest, looking for mistakes and things like that. So I would really advise that we refrain from this kind of thing.
Okay. Of course, the sponsor of the bill, Senator, says that the intention is different, that the intention is to come up with a billing system that will, in essence, protect the consumer from exploitation by internet service providers. But you see there are other effects of other proposals within the same bill that probably, that is what many people are questioning. Do you see any of this, if you've had a quick run through of the story, do you see any of this violating the rights of Kenyans? Probably issues of privacy, data privacy?
First of all, it's very unfair to characterize or associate this bill with President William Ruto. It's not a government bill. Government bills are the ones that should be directly characterized and associated with the government. Government bills are the ones that should be associated with the president. Government bills are brought through a very clear process. It is a cabinet paper which is proposed from the relevant ministry. In this case, it would be the Ministry of ICT. Waziri Kabogo would go with a proposal, and they would discuss the need for that bill, if at all. First of all, they pass a policy. Then that policy, once it's approved, then a bill is prepared. That bill, a government bill, must go through the Attorney General. It must pass the test of constitutionality through the Attorney General's office. And then it is brought back to the minister, who then publishes it, you know. It goes through first reading, second reading, and it follows the processes. But it is brought to the floor of the House by the majority leader of the House, who is the equivalent of the leader of government business. In the old constitution, it used to be the vice president and the leader of government business. But in this new constitution, where the vice president or the deputy president is not part of the parliament, the majority leader is the leader of government business. So government business has a very clear channel which is brought to the floor of the House. And it is longer in terms of processing. Before it comes to the House, there's a lot of processes behind. But private members' bills, they take shorter time in terms of processing. You will probably, like the times I've brought private members' bills to the floor of the House, you consult outside, you discuss outside, and if you remember, the public participation, not participation, but the Public Officers Vetting Act, the one that we use now, was the product of my handiwork when I was a member of parliament for Garsen. So what did I do? As a private member's bill, it wasn't a government bill. I took it through a lot of experts who looked at it and they said they support it, some amended it, some did what, some added value. Then we had a product. And again, you take it through our own system, our own lawyers within Parliament, who then advise and whatever, and then you own the work once you are happy with what the product is. So, but it is different from a government bill, because a government bill, when it comes to the floor of the House, it has priority, it has 3 stars, so it moves faster. It's not like a private member's bill. A private member's bill, you'd have to wait until all government business is done or committee business is done. There are also committee bills. Committee bills are brought by departmental committees of the House, and they take precedent over the private members' bills. So first you have government bills, then you have committee bills, then you have an ordinary member's bill. So it is true that if a government wants to have this kind of law, they can push it, and they don't bring it as a private member's bill. They would
Is
have
it impossible? Is it impossible to use a private member to sponsor?
It doesn't make any sense at all, because why would they want to hide it? At the end of it, if it is their bill, they would push it, you see, and they would want it to move fast. So it would have to be prioritized. If it's a government bill, it would have to be prioritized. Why would you put it as a 1-star instead of a 3-star? Why would you want it to hang around on the pipeline instead of it moving and you finish with it? So this is not a government bill. I want members to understand that what the Standard has put there is misinformation. It is wrong. And we have to be honest when we are before the public and tell them the truth, that a private member does not lose your right to bring in bills just because you are a UDA member or you are in the Kenya Kwanza coalition. Okay. So what Mary Kaitani has done, and probably she's the best person to explain that bill, is to bring her own thinking. And this is the most important job of a member of parliament. And I really congratulate her, because when you see a member of parliament bringing a bill, it's not many people who bring bills. Or when you see a senator bringing a bill, those are people who have applied their minds. Most people just go there to vote or to just talk on issues. So from where I sit, she's probably the best person to explain this bill. And she has explained it from the coverage of the papers. She's just saying that it is a consumer protection bill from her perspective. And how is it a consumer protection bill? She's saying that maybe from her own experience or from the experience of her constituents or other Kenyans who have talked to her, that when you're trying to use the internet, having purchased some bundles, before you know what is happening, your bundles are over. You could be maybe watching a movie, maybe doing your research, before you know, and many Kenyans have complained about this, that you purchase, 500 MBs, and then just before you get started, you're told you don't have internet again. And it's a general complaint, including even last night when someone was telling me, actually my driver, that he had purchased minutes for, now for this one is a phone, minutes from one of the providers. And according to him, the 1 month plan, the way he has used the phone, it doesn't make sense that it is 2 weeks into the month from the time he bought, and it's over, and he can't explain it to himself. So and then everyone says, no, how you are easy. And it ends there, because maybe it is 100 shillings, it is 200 shillings, it's 500, so it ends there. But that's where the providers of internet have been taking advantage of. Many Kenyans, I am sure many of us, including myself, have experienced the fact that, oh, I purchased this bundle, surely it should not have been over by now. So if he's talking about consumer protection, and then someone puts a headline,
but this one has gone beyond the billing issue.
Wait, he puts a headline, he puts the president, and tries to associate that bill with the president, which is misinformation, as I have informed, and then at the same time starts bringing experts who are saying, no, the intention of the bill is different. And yet, every time you bring a bill in the House, the intention must be stated in that bill.
Because all this is contained in the bill.
Let me
beyond the billing.
Let me say this, Fred. The reason the bill goes through the first reading, and then first reading, it's committed to a committee. In this case, it will be committed to the committee dealing with ICT, and then it will go through scrutiny. Members of the public will come, and stakeholders will come to give their views. Okay, and then after that, it will go before the House. And because it is a bill from the lower house, from the National Assembly, they will debate it. So if there are issues, people will raise it. At first, the committee will also flag anything that is bad. And then by the time they have passed it, it still has to come to the Senate, okay? When it comes to the Senate, again, we will look at it. and it will have to pass through all the processes: first reading, committee, second reading, debate, and by the time it comes out, it will be a bill that is worthy the House of Parliament.
All right, but Mukali Mulu, we know that the state has, from time to time, even suggested that we had the ICT minister, cabinet secretary now even suggesting that we need to control social media use at some point, meaning that these are discussions around government circles, that there may be need to control, to monitor the use of internet and such like things. And the biggest beneficiary of this bill would be the state, because they'll be able to do exactly that. Do you agree that, yes, a private member can be used by the state to bring a bill on a different intention, but under the guise of a different intention, consumer protection for that matter, but the main intention is something else, to allow the state to monitor internet use?
Yeah, thank you so much, Fred. Fred, I think Senator Mugatana has explained the process very well, the way things are normally done in the House. In terms of government bills, private members' bills, committee bills, there are also at times what we call the party bills. And in terms of ranking, there are different levels. You realize that private members' bills normally are only debated on Wednesday morning.
Yes.
So the rest of the time is government bills. And that tells you that if you really want to have a bill pushed faster, then you don't use the private members' route, because that will take longer. You only have, in a week, you only have a morning session. But all said and done, you realize that, Fred, the reason why somebody would come with a bill is that there must be a problem being addressed. Otherwise, unless there is any problem, then you don't have to come up with it, because you're supposed to be enacting laws for posterity. And the question I would be asking myself is, what is it that we have as a problem in Kenya so that this bill becomes important? Looking at the Data Protection Act, you realize that a lot of data, individual data, has actually been protected. That for you to access that data, you have to do a number of things for you to be able to either share that data or even access it. And what has happened is that because of the social media, and the way now social media has become the main communicating channel in this country, to an extent that is overtaking what we usually would call the norm. What has happened now, I'm sure the government would want really to be on top of, in terms of what is happening, and more so informed by what happened last year, the Gen Z issue. You remember the issue of the strike and the protests. We have a communication channel which has come up where the government doesn't have a lot of say in what is happening. And the government might be testing the waters. While Mugatana is saying the president has nothing to do this, we know the government uses individuals also to test the waters. Because I would not be convinced why a private member would want to get to this space. Data issues have very little to do with an individual member. What would be the concern of Mary Ketan, Honorable Mary Ketan, when Kenyans are sharing information and they are communicating without the government knowing what they are communicating? So I think it could be a situation where they are testing their waters, so that in case they see there isn't much resistance, don't be surprised, Fred. We have seen private members' bills being taken over by government and becoming government bills. And once it becomes a government bill, it can be fast-tracked, so that within 2 weeks, it becomes law. So could be, this is somewhat being used, so that you test the waters, and once you test the waters and we realize that there isn't much resistance, then you realize the government saying through the committee will say, this bill has become so important to us, we are taking it over, and then Mayor Ketan will be approached and be told, please drop your bill, let's now move with the bill. So it becomes a government bill. But I think what we should be saying as Kenyans is that I think we've come far in terms of opening the space for Kenyans to say what they want to say. And I don't think anybody who would want to take us back to where we have come from should be taken as a friend of this country. We must take them as enemies of this country.
Do you feel that this bill will take us back?
It is taking us back.
Yes.
Why would somebody want to know, stock on our information? Why would you be concerned about what we are saying? So long as it has not to do with security, because the only time I think we need to guard information is when it becomes a threat to national security. I don't think Kenyans communicate on a day-to-day basis. I think to do with national security. And that's why we're saying this bill, the good thing is it will be taken with public participation. And what I would want to encourage Kenyans is once it goes to the committee, because now it has to be, after first reading, it will be pushed to a committee. And the committee will have now to conduct public participation now before they call the honorable member. So what I would encourage Kenyans is at the public participation stage, we need to come out strongly and say no to this bill, because it will be against the Data Protection Act. It will even be unconstitutional, looking at what we have been given by the Constitution in terms of our rights, that we should have a right to say what we want, right of association. And to me, this is really we should be saying. And it's unfortunate that Mary Keitany is now, this is our first attempt to do a private member's bill. And she's coming with such kind of a bill. I think the last time we heard of Mary Keitany, we just remind Kenyans is when, you remember our case with the former CS Agriculture, where they had an issue of fighting for our property. That's the time we heard of her. That time she wasn't a member of parliament. But really, it's good that as a member of parliament, whatever you decide to do should be something for public interest and for posterity.
All right.
Thank you.
This is at least one of the main stories on most of the front pages. It is there on the front page of the Daily Nation. Yeah. It's there on the front page of the People Daily, and as well as the Standard, which calls it a plot to stalk Kenyans. Creepy intention, they call it. I want us to focus on something else that is also hitting most of the dailies. I think I can see it on the front page of the Daily Nation and on the front page of the Standard as well. Matters to do with education. Funding for education, and that's a big question we are asking today. On the front page of the Daily Nation, they talk about universities. High varsity fees ruining our lives. Students being punished due to delayed disbursement of government funding. Thousands of university students placed in categories that require them to pay hefty fees with minimal government subsidy and a new funding model have petitioned authorities for review. But as they wait for their fate, the most desperate have been forced to drop out of college and others barred from sitting their exams because of mounting fee arrears. That's at the university level. On the front page of the Standard, no papers, no plan, why exam season is in jeopardy. Millions of learners face the country's biggest exam season yet, with KCSE, grade 9 and grade 7 tests looming, but with delays ticking by, NEC hasn't begun printing, citing lack of funds. This is the state of our education sector. In the budget-making process, the ministry, Treasury, slashed 5 billion shillings from the education budget, which was intended for examinations, hence this crisis. Do you get the feeling that this sector is continuously losing out, and this could end up disenfranchising an entire generation due to their education problems?
Fred, education sector, the education sector gets, I think, one of the biggest shares in the budget process. I don't know the figures right now, but it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger because we're getting more and more young people going to universities, colleges, and now TVETs also. So my worry is more on the examinations that are pending, the urgency of it. We're getting, you can deal with school fees, but now the most urgent is exams. And would it have been that there was a lack of foresight, or was it lack of planning? How could there be no right amount entered in for exams, or who took out the money for exams and where did it go? Would be the question, because it's so dangerous to think that the kids are preparing for exam and then suddenly we're saying back to Parliament to see. Back to Parliament to answer the question, what happened in the planning process? Was there money put in that budget? And so the committee that deals with that, the chair of that committee, and then of course the minister. So that sector has money. That money can be, that sector, the whole education sector has a lot of money. But now to forget to put the money, the 5 billion back, And then not only forget to put, but the idea also of charging exam fees where there was no exam fees, before. It's another burden on the families and on people. The thing about the education sector is every time we think about it, there's a new model for funding universities, which is very, very controversial. Very controversial because, Fred, of all these students, it's up to the people to place you in the category, okay? And a lot of them who are even poor are finding themselves in the wrong categories. Finding themselves in the categories where you have to pay higher fees. And so they just drop out. Because the process of even going to challenge that is very difficult and tedious. So we have to review that whole story about university funding model, because this one is even prone to corruption. It's even very prone to corruption. This you can even buy a place. You can even decide I'm in this category when you're not in that category. So let's review that. Let's look. I know that the government wants to push for that particular funding model, but it has become more controversial. And now these students, if you listen to their stories, their lives have been ruined because they don't belong in those categories and they can't afford those categories. So how do you go to review those categories to make sure people are placed in the right categories? And it's all because the data you give is that what is being used against you. So anyway, it's not going to be easy for government. It's not going to be easy for Parliament at this particular moment. But the story of this sector, education sector, and I'm asking, because there is controversy around it, the members of Parliament deal with that controversy. And it's time for them to deal with it now, so that we don't have students falling off the system and just disappearing. There are already too many who are not able to go to school because of the challenges. There is a HELB, which is not disbursing anything for them. There is the categorization, and now the exams. All these things are going to create a crisis within our education system, which is not necessary. System worked before. If it's not broken, why do you want to repair it? Why are you fixing something which is not broken? And the attempt to fix it has caused more problems. So let's think about, do we go back to this old system, or do we adopt this one and make it better?
All right.
My problem is, where did the money for exams go?
Yes. Yeah. Senator, although 6 billion shillings was allocated in the 2024-2025 budget, Treasury has up until now delayed releasing those funds. Hence, the concerns about the exams later. There's a clear crisis in funding, and this has affected education. Is it time that we have a different conversation? Because we've come from a point where free primary education had taken off. We were going to free secondary education. I saw a headline yesterday talking about a school receiving 87 shillings as capitation, and schools still now don't have that money. Are we handling it the correct way? Are we having the right conversations around funding for education?
Maybe first of all, I want to say that the first team to flag the question of missing examination budget was the Education Committee at the National Assembly, chaired by Honorable Meli. Honorable Meli is my friend, and I saw him questioning the examinations people in the committee, that you are planning for exams, where is it in the budget? Okay? And remember, we're
talking about two budgets here, because the delays right now from last year's budget, where there was an allocation but delayed release. There's now preparation for the new budget, which does not have a provision for examination.
Correct.
Money. Yes.
So Honorable Meli was questioning that. And he was saying that there's a problem, which I want to say, and maybe for the information of the Kenyans listening to me, committees of the House, they provide oversight of what the ministers and, let's say, the executive is doing. So what information I need to pass here is that the committees are chaired by the government side. So it is normally the government side which has the majority that chairs those committees. So Honorable Meli is from the side of UDA, and they are chairing as a committee carrying out its oversight. So it is not a question of the whole government is supporting the cutting off of that.
Did I suggest that in my question? Because the issue is, as a nation and without political alliance.
Can I make my point?
Because you're turning it into a political, it was a UDA issue. I had not mentioned UDA anywhere.
You are interfering.
No. It's the question I asked that I'm expecting an answer to. No. I did not ask about the government or the UDA.
I'm just trying to explain to you how this place is, because you know, it's not just you, but many people are listening. The oversight that is being carried out there has been flagged by another side of the government. So it is a genuine concern. That's the point I'm trying to make. It's a genuine concern that there is some problem somewhere in terms of allocations of this fund. And so what were they told? Because I had the fortune of watching that particular session. They were told to go and revise and make sure that the money is there. But the day that was pointed out, headlines were screaming everywhere, you know, that, oh, there's no examination, and that cannot be true. Because for sure, what those headlines, and you know which newspaper I'm talking about, that screaming headline is excluding the fact that they were told to go and reshape the budgeting process and put that money there so that and I'm sure money will be found for that. But I wanted to dwell more. So I don't think Kenyans should be worried about examinations taking place or not examinations taking place. They will take place. Money will be found because that's what the committee has said, and I know the ministry will find that money, and Treasury will be told to find that money. But what I wanted to focus on really is the question of this funding for university. You know, in 2023, the government decided that we need to relook at these scholarship and loans that are given to students. We need to question ourselves. The old system where all of us were getting the same amount, is it a fair system? Is it a fair system? Is it right for a student who is studying medicine and a student who is studying Bachelor of Arts to get the same amount in terms of scholarship, in terms of loans? In my time, we all got the same amount. In my time, we would get what we used to call boom, and we would survive with it. It's supposed to come at the beginning of the semester, and you go with it until the end of the semester. In my time, we would apply for those loans, but then as soon as you get out of university and you have a first job, it was your responsibility to make sure you pay it back. And then if you are applying for a government job, any job, one of the things they would look at is HELB certificate to say that you have paid off your loan, or at least you are paying off if it's your first job. So that was a system. But the question is, are we all equal? Are we all the same? You know, so in 2023, a team was put up, and the president was under a lot of advice from professors and stakeholders in education. And the model that was proposed is that it makes sense for a student studying medicine to be given more than a student studying Bachelor of Arts literature, for example. So, and then even within that structure of what kind of a degree you're studying and what kind of money you get, it also makes sense that a student studying medicine and another student studying medicine, but they come from different income households, cannot also get the same amount of money. So you don't just say all the students studying medicine should get this amount. No, they have variable incomes. So the idea then was put, what do we do? let us create an instrument that will do the means testing. And they created 5 bands. So if you are in this band, you get this amount, this percentage. And the most vulnerable one were getting 70% scholarship, and then you look for the 30%. Now, this thing has run into problems because a lot of students are saying, no, I don't belong to this band, I belong to the other one where I'm supposed to qualify for more funding. No, the means testing instrument is not a good one because it has placed me in a category where I'm being asked to pay more. My parents are being, or my guardians are being asked to pay more than we can afford. So I want to change. So the problem now has been, how fast do you process moving one person to another band? That has been a major headache, a major challenge. So the theory of it actually is sound. The theory is sound, but the practicability is what is bringing a lot of pressure. Okay. And I wanted to say this. Means testing has had a lot of challenges, And we need to agree, though, that the theory itself is a good one because, for example, it is not correct, the model of CDF, where you have a constituency in Nairobi, for example, that has 300,000 voters getting the same amount like another constituency that has fewer voters. So the rethinking needs to be done.
And that was my question, because I was asking, are we having the right conversation? Because all these plans are there, but clearly there's a crisis, all the way from university down to primary school. There are issues of delayed capitation, delayed funds for exams, delayed disbursement of government funding to universities. There's definitely an issue of funding, and it's affecting the education sector. Are we having the right conversation? As you say, it needs to be talked about. How do we start that conversation, Bwana Wakali?
You know, Fred, the first question you asked Senator Mungatana, he didn't answer it. What you're asking him is, in the current budget, 24-25 financial year, we have 6 billion, which is supposed to be spent on exams. And what the people in charge of exams are saying is that now they have not received a single cent. And they're saying in terms of their planning, the timing, when they should start printing of the papers up to the time you administer the exam, they are saying the times now are becoming a challenge. And that, what they're saying is that might lead to interfering in the integrity of the exam, where we might not get, and you know, exam cheating in Kenya is a serious problem. So we are saying, they are saying how they wish that they got the money in good time so that they implement the process as planned. But this is not unique to the exams. And I think the question we're asking ourselves, we should be asking ourselves as Kenyans, and I think we should now get to a national conversation, because many times when you debate these things, we start thinking, we see them as if we are saying that because we are opposing what the government is doing. But the truth of the matter is, Fred, a budget is an intent. When you do a budget at the start of the year, you are saying, if things work as planned, I intend to have achieved 1, 2, 3. And it becomes a reality when you implement it. So long as you're not implementing the budget, it remains an intent. And I think that's the challenge we are facing. We have a budget which we do every year, but when it comes to actual implementation, and implementation is only possible when then you provide the cash, what we call the exchequer, for people to do the work. If you don't provide the exchequer, you have a problem. And you could see what the minister was saying, Honorable Mbande. We are facing serious, what I call liquidity challenge, that we don't have the money, we are not collecting enough to implement these things. And what the government is doing, because they don't have enough, then they have faced the challenge of prioritization in terms of where do we push the money? Do we push it to education? And you can see what has suffered most is the education sector, as you said. Look at capitation as a primary level. Look at capitation as secondary level. Look at capitation at the university level. The money is not being released. Yesterday they were talking about a school getting 87 shillings, and that school has students. So how do you imagine you have sent to a principal 87 shillings, and you expect them to manage a school? It is an impossibility. So the question is, I think we need, and this is a question I was asking, because now we are in the budget making process, I was asking this question. Do we need to do another new budget for the coming financial year, or do we roll over what has not been implemented for this year to the next financial year? Because even though it was an indent, the truth of the matter, it has not been implemented. I don't think we have done 30% implementation of the budget. And we are in which month now? We are in May.
Final.
We are with only 1 month of implementation to 30th June. So in a situation where you have not implemented the current budget, and you are telling Kenyans to be taken through another budgeting process, does it make sense? And more likely it will not make any sense. Because what we should be doing is, can we isolate what has been implemented 100%, and what has not been implemented, roll it over to the next financial year? Because automatically these were priorities, either national priority or community priority at whatever level. And that is the challenge we have. And then coming to the second issue of the university education, Fred. You know, Fred, this means testing. I think as a country we need to think, what do we need to do? Because we are not getting it right. We have students who come to us and tell us, by the fact that I was sponsored by this organization and I went to this good school, when I indicated in my papers that I went to this school under sponsorship, the fact that I went to that school and that school is seen to be a high-level school, then puts me in a different band from the reality. And I think since we do means as testing, even when we are trying to see which families need support, you know the safety nets in this country. Before we disperse the safety nets, there is always that means testing. You would actually, if you went to every village elder in this country, including where Mungatana comes from, they will be able to tell you in this village, the most disadvantaged families are family A, family B, family C. They are known. Yeah. So the question is, why do you need to subject a student to a computer means testing when the village elder can share that information all the way from the grassroots and say, Mugatana family, we know it, they are capable. They say, Makali's family, we know they are capable. But this family needs support. So that on the basis of that, we have students being placed in the right place. And that's what now you see most students, the truth of the matter is, there are students who have not gone to the university because of that placement. They have been placed in band 4, they can't move. Initially, where me and the three of us here, we went to we used to help. Those days we used to call it, was it a boom or what? We used to call it a boom. Boom. So the thing is, when we went to the university, the system, even though it would disadvantage those the most needy because it's like we're getting the same amount, but at least there was a system which ensured nobody was left out. And that's why I said, one of the challenges the government, the regime, the Kenya Kwanza regime, is that when they came to start governing us, before doing what I'll call a situational analysis to find out where are the gaps, a number of things have been changed without proper needs assessment. And that's the challenge we have. Because our education system was working, we would have said, can we phase out this new funding model so that we don't really, but you know, it just kept back. And then students out there suffering. I'm telling you, there are students who are always in our home saying, I need 40,000. And you look at a family and you say, this one can't afford, even if they wanted. Neither can you afford as a member of parliament. So what do? You have bursary from the government, but the truth of the matter is, you have 2,000 students. Do you give all the money to one student that the rest don't get? These are the issues. So can we get back to a situation where we say, medicine cannot cost the same as Bachelor of Arts. But there are students who go to medicine from rich families and they can afford. There are students who go to medicine from very poor families. And unless we are able to isolate that poor student, they will not be able to manage their courses.
All right.
May I say something there?
Yes.
About that 87 shillings that was sent to a school. It's not an isolated case. I think the government and the ministry needs to put its house in order. This system they call the NEMIS system I want to say over-reliance on these, they call them apps or applications that they purchase. These applications that operate like robots, and at sometimes they're making absolutely no sense. You know, I have a school in my county, and the headmaster was telling me, this thing is a mess. It's a total mess. I upload, say, 300 students, you know, and then the system, after 2 days, the names have disappeared. The system has gone crazy. So we are forced again to sit down and work late night trying to upload the same names we uploaded 2 days ago, and they have disappeared, you know? So if the people in the ministry are listening, they need to do something about NEMIS. Now that is on uploading. In terms of disbursement, the teacher was also telling me that now my school, which has so many students, last month I got 20,000. This month again I get 20,000. How do I run my school with this amount of money? It's not making sense. That system, according to the teachers, has something fishy about it. Because you upload your numbers disappear, and then you are given a figure that is not reflecting your numbers. So then what happens to the other amounts? This is why we are saying over-reliance on these AI-generated systems. It's not making sense. Why can't they sit down and listen to teachers? Why can't they sit down and listen even to village elders who can tell you this one has, this one does not have, their family has money, this one does not have?
Do we have the right ingredients for that, for this kind of conversation? Because it would appear the crisis is deepening. Last year, things were not as bad as this year. And according to the discussions we're having with the budget-making process, by next year, things will be worse. But are we as a nation having this conversation? Because clearly, there's an issue about education funding in Kenya.
Yeah, Fred, but even my colleagues are raising a much serious issue on technology. That of a reliance on technology when we are not properly structured for technology. You see, we are picking this technology without the foundations of technology. And so you find we are being told, use this particular app, for example, but the whole place, the foundation of that was not there. The people who are dealing with it did not go to training or did not have enough money to buy certain equipment or something like that. So we're going to have a situation in our hands where technology doesn't work for us. But in Kenya, by the way, we are only, 54,000 maybe, 54 million people. And we can still go back and verify things manually. And I think it's better to start doing that, because in this country we have chiefs, assistant chiefs, village elders. We've got, from primary school, we've got committees and we've got headmasters and so on and so on. It's possible to get all that data. In fact, a carry-on data, follow-up data. For example, if somebody is going to university, you can go back to their former secondary school and find their data, isn't it? So anyway, the whole situation is, I'm just trying to say, while we are thinking about how to improve on what we are doing, especially in this sector of education, we must have a backup. The backup is we can still consult. After all, I mean, we have got MCAs, we've got MPs, whose interests really would be to say, if you told, for example, any of these colleagues, say, look at this school, how is it like? Oh, go get this, that data. They'll use their own means, actually, to bring that data, the proper data, because it's in their interests. And they know those elders, they know those people. And it's very easy for them to actually coordinate that. So it is a matter of saying, if you're in government, don't overlook the role of everybody else, because there are roles that can actually help you run the government better. And this is the whole idea of opposition and government working to deal with one situation. This particular situation requires concerted efforts. It requires that you don't look at anybody as though they are opposed to anything, but we want a thing that works for all of us. So, yeah, I mean, I agree. I want to agree with my colleagues that if it's not working, let's quickly come around each other, come around and say, what do we now do to make it work? And I do want to lend more effort to the fact that if you want to use a technology, let's make sure that the people on the ground can actually afford that technology, number one, are trained for that technology, number two, number three, can we even verify that our technology is the latest? It's something that we cannot, that cannot be manipulated by someone else.
Right.
But remember, by the way, and knowing from my own knowledge as a former minister, that this country is not yet wired completely for these technologies. Even in the city, there are places in the city where you can't get any network, even in the city, or your network is very poor, or connectivity is very poor. What about in those rural areas? The problem with our headquarters here in Nairobi is that they think that one size fits all, okay? If we decide today we are going to have this, it must fit for all villages. And I know where I come from. There are places where that technology will not even work. There's not even electricity to go with. There is no infrastructure or like roads. You can't even reach certain places. And so you give, it's like you give capitation. And some people have to travel distant just to a bank, to bank whatever they have, or to collect money. I mean, you can say you give me 1 million, for example, but the amount of money I used to travel from my school to the bank and back is not included in that whole thing, and it makes it so difficult for people even to. So anyway, the situation is, one size does not fit all, but let's make sure first of all that we wire the country properly for steamer, electricity, for communication networks, so that technology then can be applied to everybody.
Right. Matters education hitting the front pages. High varsity fees ruining our lives. That's the Daily Nation. And no papers, no plan. Why exam season is in jeopardy on the front page of the Standard. Time for us to take a break. When we come back, we'll try and take a look at some of the political happenings from the past weekend. You're watching Morning Cafe.
Is changing every day, and so should we, for the better. Each week, we tackle the big why, the question that should be on everyone's minds. Why isn't this fixed yet? Deforestation, global warming, and the adverse effects of climate change. The future isn't just something that we inherit, it's something that we create. Join us on The Green Fix as we tell the stories of those who refuse to give up. When it comes to fixing the planet, there is no time to waste. Join me, Shiksha Arora, on Thursdays at 9 p.m. on The Green Fix as we look into the big why, you and I.
For comprehensive information and education on your health, Body Garage is here.
Don't allow anyone to pluck out your good tooth, as long as it is strong and stable.
Cancer doesn't start today and you get the symptoms tomorrow. By the time you pick it or the time it is manifesting in you, probably will be there about 5 to 10 years.
The eye is the window to the rest of the body.
Don't forget to stay hydrated.
And of course, you at home do take your water.
So the ultimate test is actually you check your urine. Your urine should be clear.
Clear like the water?
Yes. Should be able to see the other side of the urine. If your urine is colored or has changed color, you cannot see the other side, then you have not taken enough water.
Don't forget regular health checkups. Early detection saves lives.
I want the message be, we can prevent cervical cancer. We prevent cervical cancer in several ways. You have young girls And even somebody who's above that age, you can pay at least every 3 years. Somebody should have a pap smear done.
If you are 40, 45, 50 going upwards, once a year, please go see a doctor. Yeah, it's just for normal routine maintenance.
Hey there, friends. Welcome to Kids on the Block, where fun and imagination come alive. We dive into magical world filled with exciting adventures and awesome friends.
What position were you in? I was number 2.
What position were you?
Number 1.
He decided to trust
Deputy President Kithure Kindiki's move to spearhead Harambees, also known as economic empowerment programs across the country, has yet again received a backlash from the opposition leaders.
Akina mama wanawekwa kwa tent kutoka asubuhi the whole day, alafu jioni wanapewa kila mtu shilingi 500. Ati ni empowerment. Na rais alikuwa amesema akichaguliwa kama rais, hii empowerment itafanywa na serikali.
Speaking in Murang'a County Sunday, the former DP warned that these fundraisers are being conducted at the expense of essential service delivery. According to Gachagua, funds that were intended to fund important matters in the country have been transferred to the purported empowerment initiatives.
So kama jamii tuko na shida. Na shida yetu kubwa ni wasaliti wa jamii. Kwa hivyo mimi nataka tukubaliane, hao wabunge wote ambao wanatembea na rais na kuja kutukosea heshima kuleta mchele na maharagwe na kuungana na yeye akiumiza watu wetu, wote tuwafukuze. Tutawafukuza.
However, in a quick rejoinder, the second in command while in Kabeta constituency in Kiambu County insisted that the social empowerment campaigns are designed to help small businesses and hustlers access capital for business.
Kama wewe hutaki kusimama na wananchi ni sawa sawa. Wachia wale ambao wako tayari kusimama na wananchi, tusimama na wananchi.
And in what appeared to be a clear battle between the two political giants, coming after Gachagua criticized a group of Kikuyu musicians who visited Kentucky, the latter came out guns blazing, asking his predecessor to respect his line of duty.
Ati wameitwa pale Karen juzi na huyu mtu anaitwa Mr. Moneybags. Ati wanaambiwa wakuje wadanganye nyinyi SHA inafanya kazi. SHA inafanya kazi.
Unatulecture ukiwa nani? Kwani wewe ni Mungu? Una lecture kila mtu, una lecture mwanamuziki, una lecture mwanasiasa, una lecture kila mtu. Kwani wewe ni Mungu?
Gachagua accused the artists of putting their own interest ahead of the communities, claiming that each one was given 50,000 shillings to attend the conference.
Zile entertainment joint wanaenda, wasiitwe huko tena. Na wewe kama ni mwenye club ukiita huyo mtu, customers wahame waende pahali ingine.
This, however, did not sit well with Kindiki.
Unatisha nani? Naona watu wengine wanatutisha. Mimi ukiniangalia hivi ni mtu ya kutishwa na watu. Tuheshimiane bwana. Tuheshimiane. Na wanamuziki walikuja 50, mimi naita wanamuziki 500 wakuje pale Karen. Tujua utafanya nini.
Hao wameenda kukaa na wale watu ambaye wametuumiza, wametuletea hizo shida. So you unfollow those artists?
Unaamurisha kama nani? Tuheshimiane my friend. Mimi ni mtu ya heshima. Lakini my friend, if you come within shooting range, we will deal with you.
The two leaders are fighting for the control of the vote-rich Mount Kenya region in an effort to solidify their support ahead of the 2027 general election. Mike Kagwango, TV47, Nairobi.
Musijali na wale ambao wanaongea maneno mengi. Makelele yale yanaendelea hayajaanza sasa. Hata kule wakati Nehemia alikuwa anajenga Jericho, kulikuwa na watu wa makelele kama hawa. Walikuwa wanasema hii ukuta mnajenga hii haiwezi kufanyika. Hata mbweha akirukia tu itaanguka. ndio mmekuwa mkisikia wakiongea. So don't worry about those people. Let us not waste time focusing on people who have no plan, who have no agenda, and who have no vision. Let us focus, and I want to ask the people of Kenya, the leaders of Kenya, let us focus on the transformation of Kenya. It is happening.
Ndugu zetu ambao wako kwa siasa, ambao wameanza siasa ya kugawanisha Wakenya, siasa ya kuangalia makabila. I want to tell them Nairobi has no time for that. Nairobi has no space for tribal politics. Nairobi tunaishi jamii zote pamoja.
The era of blaming all problems on the presidency is gone. We are in it, all of us. We are participating in budget making. We are participating in governance. So don't blame the president alone. Blame everybody. We are together. So all the blames of misgovernment or problems must now be directed to all of us, so that it is no longer about Zakayo. Zakayo is not the one writing the budget.
But yes, quite a heated political weekend. On one hand, President William Ruto asking Kenyans to ignore planless Gachagua and urging them to dismiss empty rhetoric from leaders interested in division. But on the other side, it would appear that there's a serious scramble for the Mount Kenya region, now pitting the former deputy president and his successor. Senator Mungatana, this kind of exchange would signal probably that we are very close to elections. The kind of, we rarely see the deputy president that angry. Yet it's 2 years away. Do you feel confident enough that we can sustain this kind of political heat for the next 2 years?
Maybe just to answer you directly, yes. Kenya is a very unique country. I mean, I was in Arusha about a week ago. They are going to face elections at the end of this year. And nothing, unaona tu. People are just walking normal. You don't see bands, you don't see people moving around. You don't really, I think the only sign of politics is somewhere in Arusha you will see a billboard saying chama cha maendeleo mtaa wa whatever, tuko na mama, tunampenda mama. A billboard. No rallies, no noise, no nothing. In fact, the only political thing is the way the Kenyans who went there were chased away. That is a bit now political. And they were told, don't bring your diseases here, the political diseases here. But so Kenya is very unique. Even when South Africa was having its last election, when you go there, you find again it's muted. It's not like us. So we just have to accept our character. We are a bit more aggressive, and we've learned to live with it. We chose this constitution, we chose the freedoms, and we learned to live with it. The only thing I think that Kenyans can see now, every time, and you know, I don't even, you know, every time I see that face of former Deputy President Gachagua, I know it's negative energy he's bringing on the table. Hardly does he put forward policy. Hardly does he discuss what Kenya we want. Hardly does he talk about unity and peace and stability. Hardly does he talk like a statesman. You know, he's got so much bile, I mean, such bitterness inside his heart. I don't know, you know, I would never vote for a guy like that. He never tells me he's going to build roads, he's going to do my water, he's going to fix my education system, he's going to fix he has a better idea on how to raise money for treasury. No, he comes out and he waits for someone to say this and goes and does. I mean, what is wrong with people who are doing music, visiting the deputy president? What is wrong with people who are, you know, women in business or whatever, people visiting the deputy president? Why can't you organize yours also to visit? You know, why can't you just let, I mean, if 50 people who are doing music have annoyed you, why can't you organize 100 to come to Wamunyoro and then you tell them what you want to tell them? That is the space that we have created as a country. And so I feel that this bitterness, this anger, it's so personalized that I think if it goes on this way, Kenyans are going to forget about him. Because now you will open and you know what he's going to say next. Hakuna kitu atatuambia, ni matusi, ni maneno ambayo hayatusaidii, there's no policies proposing on the table. I think we need to like we say in Kiswahili, that you know, over time mtu anajikaranga na mafuta yake mwenyewe.
Right.
It is sad that you have now a national platform. You have now a political party. What is a political party supposed to do? You are supposed to propose alternative policies, alternative positions, and pursue those positions. That is what is called mature democracy. You cannot see people who have been in politics for years, like you know, some of our political leaders in different political parties, being so vengeful, so full of bile, so full of bitterness coming out, even against you know, ordinary voters like musicians. I mean, why? Why can't you just come and say, this is what I believe, this is wrong, the government is wrong, let's do it this way. So from where I sit, I think that let us have political competition, but let us have something we can talk about, not this bile and bitterness and vengefulness that is coming from the former deputy president.
And if we may focus on the former deputy president, the style he's adopted, it seems to be saying it's either my way or the highway. I'm the only route to Mount Kenya. Kurasa wa mbele wa Taifa Leo anasema DCP amchokoza Uhuru, and sababu there's the party, Jubilee Party, and he says if you want to talk to the Mount Kenya people, you don't even go to Uhuru Kenyatta, you come to me. It's the same thing he's telling everyone else, that I am the only one in Mount Kenya. What do you make of that?
You know, we must appreciate the fact that we have those who are in the government and we have those who are outside the government. And normally anybody outside the government would want to do anything possible to get to the government the next election. And I think that's why you see, even though Mugatana says we do politics every day, I'm imagining those who are outside the government, and that's where I belong personally, will do anything on a daily basis to make sure that come 2027, we get to the government and the other guys get out of the government. The only problem we have is that when you provoke those who are in the government, instead of realizing that they have a manifesto to implement, they also join you in terms of politicking. Personally, I will not be saying what the deputy president is saying, the current deputy president is saying, because he knows he has a manifesto to implement. I will focus more on manifesto and avoid this diversion. You know, these are just diversionary tactics. What we are doing is we are trying to pull them out of the implementation of their manifesto so that they are all over talking politics. To me, the way I look at it, what Gachagua is doing, and every good politician do that, is to ensure that you are the only voice where you come from matters politics. So that when that time comes, when we are on the round table negotiating, I can tell you I'm negotiating this kind of numbers. Because Kenyan politics is about numbers. Kenyan politics is more regional. And the reason why you see they are trying to outbox each other is because the former deputy president knows very well, if I clear the current DP and I clear President Uhuru out of the scene, that space, so that I'm the only person in that space, then it will be very important and instrumental in determining who is the next person, bearing in mind the numbers in Mount Kenya region. And I can tell you what is happening will never stop. That's why you see even somebody small as a musician, when they go out there to play their music, he is concerned. Because the question is, could this be starting a process where now my numbers could start being reduced? And I think that's the thing. But the unfortunate bit is both the president and the deputy president are also playing politics today, when it's 2 years plus to the election. How I wish that they settled on implementation of their manifesto so that come the right time, and you know, maneno mingi inapatikana when you reply, assuming they kept quiet. and said, let's ignore them. Because there are times you want to save your energy for a bigger battle. I think the current administration currently doesn't have a big battle. The big battle for them is manifesto implementation. As you approach 2027, then they can now start applying their energy to responding to people like Gachagua, people like Makali Mulu when we make these serious statements. But now they're already into our game. And that's how try to take them round up to the time we slaughter them the right day.
All right.
So Mukatara, you have to warn your people that can you focus on your manifesto? The other thing is critical is that you know, looking at what is happening, you gave the example of Tanzania, the example of South Africa, and I agree with him. I remember at one point I was in Germany, and actually that was election day. And you couldn't realize that people were voting because some would just walk from their house, you vote and you go back to your house and wait for results. But I think the Kenyan politics, we are pushing to a level that it is very, very aggressive. That people must come out and talk politics day in, day out. But even as you do that, we need to settle and do work for Kenyans, because I think that is where the gap is. That there's so much talk. And this talking comes both from the government and from the opposition, to an extent that it blurs all the important things. We have just been discussing the education sector a few minutes ago. A sector which is taking 28% of our total budget. A budget of 4.2 trillion, 28% going to that sector, and we don't seem to care about the issues in that sector. And there's this saying, Fred, they say if you want to destroy a country, destroy the education sector. By what we are doing, we might in future be having no country, because those are things now I thought the DP should be talking about, the president should be talking about. But look on day-to-day basis, what statements are coming from the president. You have people who are visionless, you have people who have no plan, this is the alternative government. There's no way we could be having no plan. There's no we have plans. The only thing is our plans cannot be implemented today. They will be implemented when we are in government. With them, they have a plan which they should be implementing, but they're not implementing.
All right. Now, critics of the former deputy president say that he's too abrasive and now making demands even on musicians, that probably could have a negative effect on his politics going forward. Do you see it that way?
I'm afraid the biggest battle now in Kenyan politics is the battle for the mountain. And that is the biggest battle. There's no doubt about it. And so even the deputy president, the current deputy president, is fighting for that. And you can see all his programs, all his plans are around the mountain. And if and the abrasive nature of Rigiji has caused the current deputy president to crack. If you look at that last clip, you realize he has been provoked now enough. Even if you watch his language now, that language that he spoke there, if I were the advisor, which I'm not legally advising here, but I would have said, Tulisa Boli, cool down. The language has come out now means Rigiji has succeeded in his motives, in his ideas. Because, I mean, you've never seen Kindiki.
She's so aggressive.
That aggressive, that animated, so angry, but it doesn't help him. When he asks that, Ukiniona Mimi, do you think, that can be answered differently by everybody when they see. So I think my advice is don't be led into that trap. Because the idea that Rigiji has is to get him to get to that level so that now he can be seen to be the guy who is standing on a pedestal, the one who is on a higher level, and he has succeeded in that. Granted, we can blame him for his abrasive nature, but who is not abrasive in this politics? You tell me, how is the opposition being treated in this government? How are the opposition being treated? I mean, look, just the other day, look at how Natembeya was being treated. The other day, anybody who is opposing this government also, who is not abrasive, who is not actually breaking the law. And I think we should actually come to a place where we should say to Kenyans, this is a democratic space. If this gentleman has Mount Kenya, we should find a way of wooing him rather than trying to punish him. If somebody is trying to control a movement like the Tawe movement, don't go against him like that. And you watched how 100 policemen were taken out of duty to go and arrest one person. That is what I'm saying. Everybody in this case is abrasive. So don't blame Rigiji alone. Why are we being abrasive also against the government? And we spoke about it here many times, that there is tolerance level for opposition in this region. It's gone to a very, very high level. In the countries around us, you realize how opposition leaders are being handled. But even here in this country, so my advice to the government is, or to those of us who are leaders, like Mr. Mulu was saying, is that focus on what you are doing.
Is that your parting shot?
Yes, because this gentleman is about his job, which is to make sure you don't really finish what you're about to do, so that we have a reason to challenge you in the next exam, in the next election. So this is pretty much, he is on track, don't blame him. He's on track on what he has to do.
Okay. Senator, parting shots?
My parting shot is to say that the government is delivering slowly on its various promises, and Kenyans should look forward to better days. We have challenges, yes, but Kenyans should look forward to better days. There will be all these politicians talking, but when you listen to them, and they are not providing any form of solutions, any form of alternative thought, I think Kenyans should start slowly learning to sieve what is solid and what is just grass. The time will tell, but I know that the boys will be separated from the men by the time we are coming to the general elections. It's not just talking, just abusing people that will take you anywhere. You may get a bit of your supporters, those radical fellows, but I don't think that will take you anywhere. And I can see this happening. There is nowhere that you will find a president. In fact, just do your research. A president who is so, you don't look presidential at all. You look terrible. And Kenyans need to have somebody who is calm, somebody who can see the issues, somebody who goes for the issues.
All right.
I will leave it there.
Thank you so much, Senator. Finally, Wanamulu, parting shot.
Yeah, thank you. My parting shot will just be very brief. What I would say is that based on what we've discussed here today, and it's how I wish that we also discuss the issue of the inhuman treatment of Kenyans and Ugandans who went to Tanzania, but that is a topic for another day. What I would say is, when I look at what is happening, and with our discussion today, I see a lot of fires being lit all over the place. We have some fire in the education sector, we fire in the health sector, we are having now fire in terms of other issues. I wish we could just put off some of these fires and focus on one. Otherwise, when we spread our energy to all these different fires over the place, we're not likely to have the right impact for the country.
All right. Thank you so much, gentlemen. Makali Mulu, MP Kitui Central, Danson Mungatana, Senator Tana River, and Samuel Pogisio, who has been a member of the National Assembly, the Senate, as Majority Leader in the 12th Parliament, and also as Minister for ICT in the Kibaki II administration. We've discussed issues from a bill that's in Parliament, which is being described as having creepy intentions, matters education funding, and even part of the heated political space that we are now seeing. Thank you, gentlemen, for your time this morning. Coming after the break, Monday Blitz, Duncan Mutua and Fred Arocho will be in studio alongside Lawrence Omondi and Annette Washira. Do stand by for that after the break. My name is Fred Indimuli. Good morning.